Hey, deep divers, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Hit that notification bell too so you don't miss our next deep dive. Okay, so this time we are heading to Hollywood with season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. But get this, we're focusing on how the show is, like, overflowing with movie references. And trust me, it's more than just fun Easter eggs. We're going to find out how these references add layers of meaning and maybe even give us clues about the mystery.
It's actually fascinating how Only Murders doesn't just name drop these films. It weaves them into the actual narrative. It's like a secret language, but for movie fans.
Okay, so just to set the scene, season 4 takes our favorite trio, Charles, Mabel, and Oliver, from the Arconia all the way to the glitz and glam of Hollywood. They're facing a brand new murder mystery as their podcast is being adapted into a film.
And our victim this time? Saz Pataki, Charles's stunt double. And the show really uses this setup to explore the idea of doubles, which becomes like a recurring theme throughout the whole season.
Oh yeah, stunt doubles, acting doubles, even the directors of the film are twins.
Exactly. It's like they're holding up a mirror to Hollywood itself, where everything's kind of a facade.
Ooh, I like that. A facade. Okay, so get this, deep divers. The article we're diving into today points out that each episode title is a direct reference to a film.
Yeah, it adds a whole other layer to the storytelling.
Okay, so the first episode is called Once Upon a Time in the West. Now, obviously, this is a nod to the trio's move to Hollywood, but there's got to be more to it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the opening scene of Once Upon a Time in the West. That long, slow buildup of tension before bam. We see the dramatic reveal. Well, that same feeling is mirrored in the episode when the group finds Saz's body.
Oh, I see. So it's like the show is using classic cinematic techniques to create suspense.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. Did you notice that Saz seemingly lived in the same apartment complex used in Mulholland Drive?
Oh, wow. Good eye.
Yeah, and that's another film that's all about the dark side of Hollywood hidden identities.
Oh.
Maybe it's a hint of what's to come this season.
Very clever. Then we have Gates of Heaven, a documentary about pet cemeteries.
Okay, a little morbid. But this ties into something I've been noticing. Remember how Saz mentions that film? It seems like there are animals everywhere this season. A cadaver dog, that creepy guard cat at the theater, even a pig on set. What's with all the animals?
Yeah, that is interesting. It could be just a quirky detail or maybe a subtle clue. We'll have to keep an eye out as we go through the other episodes. Speaking of eyes, okay, maybe not, but what about that episode 2 for the road? It reminds me of Charles and how he's constantly watching the Westies across the courtyard.
It's like a direct parallel to Hitchcock's Rear Window, where the main character thinks he's witnessed a murder. And then the title 2 for the road connects to the episode's focus on those unexpected pairings. You know, the trio with their acting doubles. It's like a different kind of road trip.
And speaking of doubles, the episode called The Stuntman takes this whole doubling theme even further. The film it's referencing, it's all about doubling the double. Like, what if Saz wasn't who she seemed?
Ooh, what if there's a third double out there? Okay, and don't forget that John Wick poster at the stunt bar. Plus, later on, there's that book about John Wick's dog. The animals keep coming back.
Don't they? Then there's Adaptation, a Charlie Kaufman film. And get this, the film literally plays with ideas of reality, fiction, and you guessed it, doubles. It's like the episode is a commentary on the show itself.
Whoa, so meta. In this episode, we meet Marshall, the screenwriter. He seems so riddled with imposter syndrome, he's even wearing a fake beard and glasses to feel like a real writer.
He's surrounded by all these references to Kaufman's other films, too, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Could he be more involved than we think?
Then we have Blow Up, another film about a photographer who might have caught a murder on camera. And the episode itself is structured like found footage.
Isn't that what filmmaking is all about, though? Choosing what we see, framing the story.
Exactly. The camera can both reveal and distort the truth, just like in Blow Up.
Whoa, hold on. This episode has so many movie references. Singing in the Rain, James Bond, Barbie, The Godfather. It's like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, and it gets even better. As the season goes on, the references get more complex and layered.
Okay, deep divers, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a break and come back to see how these references play out in the rest of the season. This deep dive is just getting started.
Welcome back, deep divers. We are diving right back into season 4 of Only Murders in the Building and all those awesome film references.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, those super layered movie references that just keep getting more and more intense as the season goes on.
Right. We even see nods to 1920s surrealist cinema like Metropolis, Inshin Andalou, and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Wow, those are some deep cuts.
Yeah, and they all play with distorted realities, much like that creepy student film in episode 6. It's unsettling, but it really gets you thinking, doesn't it?
It totally adds to that whole eerie vibe of this season. And what about those Moonstruck references? Loretta's name, Dr. Camerari, it's like a little echo back to season 3 with Vince Fish quoting that movie too.
It's subtle, but it really ties things together. It shows how these references are all part of the Only Murders universe.
Okay, let's get into some specific episodes. What about episode 7, Valley of the Dolls? It takes us to Charles's sister's house, right?
Oh, yeah, in that creepy doll collection. It was like a horror film.
Right. And Valley of the Dolls is all about the dark side of Hollywood. Like,
Right.
the show is warning us that things aren't always what they seem.
Especially in Hollywood. Okay, and then there's Lifeboat, with those clips from the Hitchcock film at the beginning and the end.
I love how Professor Dudnoff basically uses the film as a metaphor. You know, he's stuck in that West Tower with all those other residents, like they're in a lifeboat together.
Yeah. And then he makes that pact with his friends and, well,
It makes you think about loneliness and connection, especially in a city like New York.
and of course, Dudnoff is a huge film buff, so he just casually drops all these references to classic movies like The Apartment, Terms of Endearment, Casablanca.
Here's looking at you, kid. Perfect final line for him. Okay, but what about episode 9? Escape from Planet Klongo isn't a real movie, right?
Nope. That's a made-up Ron Howard film. Remember how they described it? Very personal, very small, $200 million budget.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
ridiculous. And then we see Charles and Oliver in front of that green screen as these scared aliens.
Ooh.
Hilarious.
It's like they're poking fun at all those big-budget Hollywood movies that are more about ego than substance.
Oh, and we can't forget that scene in episode 8 where Rudy channels Jack Nicholson. You know, you can't handle the truth.
Gives me chills every time.
I read that Kumail Nanjiani actually memorized that whole speech. And this scene goes back to Dudnoff talking about how important casting is. Like, he was predicting Rudy's big moment.
Exactly. So here's the takeaway. Only Murders isn't just throwing in random film references. They're using them to tell a deeper story, flesh out the characters, and explore those big, complex themes.
It's like they're inviting us to play along.
Yeah.
You know, recognize those references and see how they enrich the whole experience.
It's like a love letter to cinema,
Yeah.
but it's also a commentary on how we understand stories, both on screen and in real life.
It makes you realize how much work goes into a show like this.
Yeah.
It's not just about the mystery. It's like a celebration of storytelling.
Yeah. It all comes back to this, though. What do all these film references actually mean?
Right.
Like, what are they saying about Only Murders?
What's the big picture?
Well, if we think about the main themes this season, I think it's saying the show is getting more self-aware. It's blending reality and fiction, almost like it knows it's a story, a carefully constructed narrative.
Whoa, so meta. We're watching a show about a podcast that's now a movie, and that movie is commenting on storytelling itself.
Right. A lot to think about. Here's another thought, though. Could this whole self-awareness thing be a clue about who the killer is?
Ooh, what do you mean?
What if the killer is someone obsessed with movies? Someone who sees themselves as a director, creating their own twisted story?
Oh, wow, that's a really interesting theory. Wouldn't be the first time Only Murders has messed with our expectations.
Exactly. And that's why we love it. It keeps us guessing.
All right, deep divers. That's it for our deep dive into Season 4 of Only Murders in the Building and all those amazing movie moments. We've uncovered hidden meanings, found some recurring themes, and hopefully you've got a new appreciation for how those film references can add so much to the show.
It's been a blast.
And remember, this is just the start of the conversation. We want to hear from you. Have you spotted any other film references this season? What are your theories about the killer? Head to the comments and let us know.
And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive.
Until then, keep watching Only Murders.